Hello everyone, Jericho here. Welcome to We the People, a new birth of freedom. Well, this is election day. Certainly a day that will go down in history as one of the most vicious and nation-changing election days in our history. But I'm not going to talk about that right now. Everybody's out voting. We'll see what happens. But we have been talking about tyranny, tyrants, dictators, bullies, political bullies, and liberty. You can't have both. You cannot have both. Let me give you somewhat of a parallel. You know, when you get in your vehicle and you drive down the streets, the roads, the highways, the byways, you're responsible for that vehicle that you're driving. You're responsible for your actions, your reactions. The total responsibility lays within your choices of how you're going to drive that vehicle, how slow, how fast, how you're going to abide by the traffic signs. It's up to you. For the most part, most Americans are very, very responsible when they get behind the wheel of an automobile or a truck or a motorcycle, whatever the case may be. They watch the stop signs, they're careful at intersections, they use their turn signals, they follow the statutes of driving and driving safely. But then there's always that individual that wants to drive too fast, wants to drive drunk, does not want to abide by the road signs, street signs, the statutes to keep drivers safe. And so what happens? Fatalities take place, injuries take place. Another gravesite is dug because someone wanted to drive drunk. They forfeited their responsibility. Many of them end up in jail, in prison for vehicular homicide. And that's just the way life is. Not everybody is going to abide by the things they're supposed to follow and be responsible and accountable for their own actions. So they and others have to pay the price. There's consequences involved. So I want to use that as a parallel. As with the vehicle, the traffic signs, the personal responsibility and accountability of driving a vehicle, as those things are true on that side, we have the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights that informs us of our rights according to the laws of nature and nature's God. But we have to be accountable and responsible in order for them to work right. Now, you know, we have freedom of speech. We have freedom of religion. However, that freedom of speech does not give us the liberty to walk up to someone and say, I'm going to stab you right now. I'm going to blow your brains out right now. It doesn't do that. You say, well, I have freedom of speech. No, that's not being accountable and responsible within the context of our founding documents. Liberty is knowing how to be accountable, responsible, live with integrity, live free. We have freedom of religion, but what if we decide that our religion is that we will become cannibals, and that's our religion, and we worship Satan or some god of the underworld? And so cannibalism is part of our religion. Well, you just crossed the line. That's not the freedom our founding fathers were talking about. So as you look at the parallel, and you see how that the majority of people here in the United States travel the streets, the roadways, the highways, the byways, and they drive responsibly and with accountability, and yet there's always someone violating those statutes, those traffic laws, and there's consequences involved. Likewise, most Americans, the majority of Americans, abide by the Bill of Rights. We don't go out and murder. We don't burn people's houses down. That's not part of our pursuit of happiness. We respect life. We respect others' liberty as well as ourselves. We abide by those Bill of Rights within the context of our founding documents. But every once in a while, someone goes into a school with a firearm, for example, kills innocent children, innocent people, and so there's consequences involved. Just like there is when someone gets behind the wheel and they drive drunk, they kill somebody. But here's my point. You don't take the freedom away from the law-abiding citizens. Just because a man or a woman or a young person gets behind the wheel, drives drunk, gets involved in a car crash, someone dies, you don't take cars and the right to drive away from the law-abiding citizens. You don't do it. And you certainly don't reduce them to driving a little Volkswagen or a little four-cylinder. Are you following my line of thinking? No, you have the freedom, the right to drive a four-cylinder, a six-cylinder, eight-cylinder, 12-cylinder. My goodness, some of these road-legal sports cars, you've got hundreds of horsepower. I don't know what you're going to do with it out on the road legally, but it's there. Because it's your right. It's part of your pursuit of happiness. You want to own a car that has 500 horsepower? That's up to you. And just because someone goes out, drives a vehicle, drinks, drives a vehicle, or just drives crazy, drives fast, whatever, doesn't obey the traffic laws and slams into somebody, people are killed, that doesn't mean law-abiding citizens are reduced to walking. We don't lose our right to drive, nor do we lose our right to drive whatever vehicle we want. Likewise, to parallel that with the Second Amendment, that right shall not be infringed. It doesn't matter what type of firearm you want to own. It doesn't matter how many rounds you want to own, what your magazine capacity is. If you're a law-abiding citizen, that cannot be taken away from you. That's what that means, shall not be infringed. Why? Because you are abiding by the context of a well-regulated militia. You're law-abiding, you're trained, you know how to use a firearm. And just because some nut job goes into a school or to a restaurant and starts firing away and kills people, that doesn't mean that our government has the right to take away our firearm or any type of firearm and reduce us to BB guns, muskets, single-action revolvers. They don't have the right to do that, just like they don't have the right to reduce us to riding bicycles or Volkswagens or mopeds just because people go out and drive irresponsibly. Are you following the parallel here? Liberty is liberty. Tyranny is tyranny. When someone else is going to define liberty for you and regulate it and govern it and limit it, it's tyranny. Can't make it any other way. We'll pick up this subject another time. Till then, God bless and be a true American patriot.